Life Rhythms with Ryan Skyy. Observing the world around me, looking inward, trying to make sense of it all. Welcome to Life Rhythms radio show. I am your host, DJ producer Ryan Skyy. So excited for today's episode. Life Rhythms is a radio show that revolves around my personal growth journey. See, as a songwriter and music producer, I spend a lot of my time observing the world around me, looking inward, trying to make sense of it all. I've been doing it in song form, and now I'm doing it in my radio show. So every episode of Life Rhythms, we feature one guest, we feature one song, and we feature a personal growth topic around that song. Today's guest, I've got Frank Walker on today. Frank has got a record out right now called Kiss Me, and it's dear to my heart because it's actually a remake of a record in the 90s, and you heard a little clip of it coming into the start of this episode, so you may have recognized it right away. The original Kiss Me was by Sixpence None the Richer in the 90s, and Frank remade it into this really dope deep house dance record that was just recently released. And so we've got Frank on the show. We're going to be featuring Kiss Me. And when I was preparing for this episode and I was thinking about topic-wise, like what do I want to talk about? I was looking at the lyrics of Kiss Me, and I was just thinking about my own experience with the original record and just how other people relate to the song. And, you know, when I'm looking at the lyrics, kiss me out of the bearded barley, nightly beside the green, green grass. I'm looking down these lyrics and I'm seeing references to tree houses and hanging tires and flowered hats and beneath the milky twilight. I mean, and the fireflies. I mean, I'm in LA right now recording the show. And we don't have fireflies here, but I grew up with them. So this song's very nostalgic to me. It reminds me of my childhood. I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, but I think overall the reason why I think this song has resonated with so many people is because of it kind of brings out this innocent romance, this innocent, fresh romance of like that first kiss that we've all experienced or that we all long for, and kind of like reminding us of a time in the past of when romance and dating and courting was innocent, and you know we didn't have cell phones and social media, and you know it's like we didn't know what the person was doing all the time, so you would sit in your bedroom and you would be thinking about this person and wondering what they're doing and how they feel about you. And you know, maybe in class, you'd write on a piece of a note on a piece of paper, like how, you know, do you like me? Check yes or no. I'm speaking from personal experience, you know, passing notes in class and just like these sweet, innocent things that we used to do as kids. To me, that's what the song Kiss Me represents. So we're going to be talking about romance in this episode and the evolution of romance. How has it changed? Has it lost its luster? What's it like nowadays in the age of COVID and then post COVID? So we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, I'm going to be bringing Frank Walker on as my guest, featuring his song Kiss Me, talking about the evolution of romance right after this short break. Welcome back to Life Rhythms radio show. I am your host, DJ producer Ryan Skyy. Very excited about today's episode because I have a very special guest with me today, Frank Walker. Hey, Frank.
How's it going? Thank you for having me on.
Dude, I'm excited to have you on. I'm a fan of your music and today's topic. It's going to be a good one. So glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk. I'm also a fan of my own music, but
yeah, that's you know, so do you make music? We'll get into that, but I let me bring in my co-host Scott. Scott, how you doing, Scott?
Lift your open hand.
And
strike up the band and make the fireflies dance.
So Scott's my co-host and manager, and he always opens our episodes with lyrics from the song we're featuring. And today we're featuring Frank's record Kiss Me, which we just played a little snippet coming into this segment. And listeners, you may have thought to yourself, this sounds familiar. And you could be right because it's a remake, one of my favorite songs of the 90s, called Kiss Me by Sixpence None the Richer. So yeah, I'm excited to be talking. So we're going to be featuring Kiss Me today. But yeah, so Scott, I'm glad to have you on.
Thank you. And I'm glad to hear another interpretation of this song, Frank. I don't know if you heard Newfound Glory's cover of Kiss Me, but those are my two favorite next to the original Sixpence version.
Nice. I haven't heard their cover. I need to go check it out.
Yes, you do.
When was their cover released?
It was, I believe, oh my God, it was 2007. Let me Wikipedia. It was from the Screen to the Stereo 2. They have 3 cover albums, but I know this opened that. Let me see.
Cool. So while you're doing a little Wikipedia, listeners, so I want to tell you about Frank Walker. So he's a Canadian DJ noted for his single Only When It Rains. It was a collaboration with Astrid S, which was a Juno Award nominee for Dance Recording of the Year, which is badass at the Juno Awards of 2020. That's sick.
That's sick, hence none the richer.
I like where this interview is going. I like the puns are coming out already. Yeah.
I'll do one more and then I'll shut up. 2007, From the Screen to Your Stereo, Newfound Glory. I'll shut up. Frank Walker's on Life Rhythms.
2007. Cool. Yeah. So listeners, Frank, so I'm a fan of Frank's. Only When It Rains. It's what he's noted for. One of my favorite songs of 2020 was Frank's record Like Gold, which he put out with Loud Luxury and Stephen Puth.
Yep. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
It's my COVID baby. I've known Loud Luxury for a long time. We've always been talking about working on a track together. We all grew up DJing together, and I think over COVID it was the right time to kind of collaborate over Zoom. And then we ended up meeting in LA. I flew out to meet the guys and had to go through some quarantining to get there, but I'm really happy that one.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
How long ago did you make that? Like, how far into COVID was it that you worked on that record?
I think we finished it like August, maybe 2020, because I was in LA during the summer when everything kind of eased up a little bit. Like Canada was opening up a little bit, LA was opening up a little bit, so it was safe enough to travel and have to go through the quarantine process when I get there. But yeah, it's I think it's kind of cool about COVID. How like me and the guys are so used to traveling and touring all the time that you kind of have some downtime and actually get to follow up with people you've been wanting to collab with and work on new songs and get those projects out that you've been kind of putting on the back burner for too long.
So do you feel like COVID's made his kind of brought things down a little bit so that we can be more creative because there's less traveling, less touring?
I think to some degree, yeah. Like I love touring and being a DJ before I was a producer. There's nothing that's going to top like playing big festival stages and I don't know, going out there and seeing the way your music can connect with other people. But there has been like some benefits to having stuff slow down, and you get to sit around and actually learn to love making music again, not just be my manager being like, "Oh, you need to hit this deadline," and like I'm like, I just finished a show like 8 hours ago, and I'm flying back home. It's like, give me half a day to rest. But I love both sides of it, though. It's nice to now I'm itching to get back on the road, though. It's been a little too long. It's been a year.
Yeah, I'm itching for things to open up too. Mm-hmm. You had mentioned earlier that you're a big fan of your own music. I think that's key to being successful in the industry is making music for yourself first before, rather than trying to sit down and be like, what can I create that's going to be popular, or what can I create that other people are going to like?
How do I help my brand?
Yeah. I mean, that does come into it.
It's got to be play into it, right? It's got to be part of it. But I think when I first started out producing, probably taking it seriously 5 years ago, I had that conversation with myself, and I sat down. I'm like, what do people want to hear? But then, like, I think that kind of evolved into what do I want to hear? And then you take inspiration from other things that are kind of blowing up. But I think for me, it's always kind of come back to like really strong lyrics and songwriting and everything I'm doing. I don't know. For the longest time, I wanted to have like original, really strong lyrics I liked, and it took me probably 6 years in my career till I did my first cover of someone else, because I wanted to find the right song to really like resonate with, and I don't know, it felt right, which was "Kiss Me," obviously. But yeah, it's about finding.
So is this is your first cover?
Yeah, the first time ever. I've obviously remixed other people's tracks as like official remixes, but never had someone like cover and released as like an original cover before.
And that's such an interesting timeline, because for many DJs, typically it's the reverse. I've seen so many DJs build their career off of starting off with covers.
Yeah.
Right? And they'll release a few covers, and that's how they get their name out there. And then based off of the popularity of the covers, then they come out with the originals. Whereas you built a foundation with original work, and you kind of waited for the right moment. That's really interesting to me.
I don't know if I was being stubborn and like trying to be too artsy and be like, I want to write my own stuff. I'm not going to cover anything until like, I don't know. At some point, I think I stopped taking myself so seriously. And it's like, I really love the song. I think everyone loves the original "Kiss Me." Like it's, I don't know, pretty much everyone you play it for, like not little kids because they're too young, but like people's grandparents, people our age, people younger than us, everyone loves it. I'm like, why am I like force myself to not work with something I love just to try to be like too creatively true. But then I was able to spin it and flip it and make it my own. I guess once I became comfortable with the idea of using someone else's original lyrics to really make it your own. I don't know. It let me become creative then.
Yeah. So for listeners, so the original song "Kiss Me," I had mentioned earlier. It's by Sixpence None the Richer. They released the track in the 90s. The original version of the song was released. So that they were an American Christian alternative rock band. This was in 1998 from their 1997 self-titled debut album. That's where the original song was from. And it was nominated for a Grammy Award for Best Pop Performance by a Duo in 1999. And that song, I mean, it just like, it dominated. I remember seeing it on Dawson's Creek, and I think it was She's All That was the movie. It was pretty much like,
yeah. They're actually doing
is that right?
They're actually remaking She's All That right now as well. Like my girlfriend's an actress, and some of her friends, like it's public knowledge now, but like some of her friends are cast in the movie. And she's like, "Oh, you should get your song done." It's too late; they already have all the music selected. But she's like, "Oh, you should try to get your remake put in the remake of the movie." But yeah, the original was massive. Like back in the 90s.
Well, you know what's funny about big songs is that sometimes you hear people hate on something because no matter what, people just like to complain. I've never heard anyone say anything negative about that song. Not once. Like, even like when I was in high school in the 90s, like the punk kids were like, "Oh, that's catchy."
Mm-hmm. I think it's just a really good song. There's nothing like gimmicky about it. Like I think you can get into the trap with like the lyrics "Kiss Me" almost becoming cheesy, but the way that the original was written, there's so many cool kind of descriptive lyrics painting a picture around it in a really creative way. And it's like the actual hook being "Kiss Me" doesn't feel cheesy in that sense, because like it's such a well written and performed original.
Yeah, I agree with you that it definitely resonated. I mean, it was the most played radio song in 1999 in 11 different countries. So I think that says a lot about
one of which being Canada. Just saying,
it went number one here. Obviously, if it's the most played song, but yeah, my radio people up here, when I told them, I didn't know that fact when I finished the record up, my radio promoter's like, "Oh, it was number one here back when," he's a bit older than me. It's like, "Back when I was younger." I'm like, "Oh, really? It's good to know." Like,
that's cool. I think it went to number 2 in the US. But yeah, you're right. You were talking about the lyrics. According to songfacts.com, they had some information about the original song, and so vocalist, I don't know how to say her. Is it Lee Nash?
It's
Lee Nash.
Well,
so Lee Nash.
When it's spelt, with that 5-letter Leigh, it's pronounced Lee, unless she goes by some moniker called Lababubu.
Lababubu.
The classic short form for Lee.
I mean, that's who I'm named after, Lababubu Waldman.
They abbreviate, yeah. Lababubu. So, okay, this is from songfacts.com. Vocalist Lee Nash recalled to Babel Music the song's origins. And she said, "It's pretty crazy." That's
a good imitation.
That's my Lee voice. "It's pretty crazy. Matt wrote that song overseas." So Matt was the guitarist of the group, and he's the one that wrote the lyrics. So she said, "It was pretty crazy. Matt wrote the song overseas. At the time, he was reading some Dylan Thomas poetry. And I think he just started writing that song, and the words were a little different. The song was a little bit darker, but it was basically the same song, and we performed it the very night that he wrote it."
So cool. I feel like that never happens anymore. Like, I feel like now it takes so long for a song that people write to get into their performances. And like, I don't know, I feel like you hear stories about people writing something and performing it that night, like in the 90s. And it's like, oh, people reacted so well. Now we're putting it out. That's not a thing you have anymore, which I feel would be so interesting to have as a musician.
Yeah, that's so fast, so quick to market.
Yeah,
it's like that night.
Now, if you had a big pop star, it's like, "Oh, we wrote this today in studio," and their management team and like production team, like, "No, you're not playing it till it's like approved by the label, and like we make sure the lyrics are fine.
Yeah.
And every songwriter signs off on it." Like, so it's like a little too political now. Sorry, I sidetracked.
Ryan, I know, Ryan, I know.
But it's painful.
But wait, I just want to say one thing. It kind of gives me the same vibes that the Cardigans gave me with Love Fool. Those mid-90s, female-fronted soundtrack vibes. And I believe that song was in Romeo and Juliet. And Cardigans are from Sweden, just so you know. So
are they? It does have a similar vibe. What is that sound? It's very cinematic to me.
I mean, it's weird, but like you could call it like soft rock or like kind of like the kind of pop that you hear when you're at the supermarket.
Well, now, yeah.
And it's almost like a bit poetic if you think about the songs. Like now, like I feel like all your verses start really chilled and like choruses are so big. Both those songs have like a very consistent kind of good sing along energy all the way through. Where you don't have these massive segments that need to like rely on all this production and like making something feel big. You just have these good like kind of lyrics that roll through the whole song and are sing alongable the whole time. If that makes sense.
It does, and there's so much imagery. When I look at the lyrics, like "Kiss me out of the bearded barley, nightly beside the green, green grass, swing, swing, swing the spinning step. You wear those shoes, and I will wear that dress." And just like "Kiss me beneath the milky twilight." It just
don't say every line, Ryan. Then I won't have any dad jokes.
Okay, let's go. You got any?
I was gonna say "Kiss me beneath the milky twilight," but you freaking did it. So, honestly, just strike up the band and make the fireflies dance.
These lyrics remind me of. So I'm curious, like what Frank? So you grew up in Canada?
Yeah.
Like what was it? A small town? Because see, I grew up in a small town in Western Pennsylvania, and as I'm reading these lyrics, I'm like, this reminds me of my town. It's like the firefly, just kind of like the tree houses and the fireflies, and
it does have that sense of innocence. Like, I grew up north of Toronto in a smaller town, kind of like on like next to like a horse farm. So there was like less like, now I'm in the city. There's like skyscrapers and houses everywhere, but it kind of has a nostalgia where I don't know, like running through like, obviously there was no like bearded barley where I grew up, but that kind of sense of like running outside and there's fireflies at night, and, like seeing the sky, and like it makes you kind of go back to like a younger place in your mind kind of. And I haven't really thought about why I connected to the song so much. And I think maybe it was because it came out when I was like in that portion of my life when I was younger. But when you listen to those lyrics and read them out like that, it really makes you feel like you're young again, kind of, and like more innocent.
It does. It feels so fresh. I feel like cleansed. It's like, kind of feels like the weight of the world's lifted off of me, and I'm transported to this innocent time.
Ryan, when you're in a bad mood, just put this song on, man.
It's one of those songs that that never gets old. So did you have a list of potential covers you wanted to do, or do you remember at what point you thought about this track and that you would want to maybe try to give it a spin to remake it?
I never had like a proper list of like actual covers I wanted to do per se, but Teresa, the vocalist, she was on we kind of wanted to get her on something for a while. Me and my management team were talking, and she was on a Jonas Blue track called "That's What I Like About You" a while back, and her voice is awesome on it. And she kind of has this really cool jazzy tone. So my team connected with hers, and she was kind of messing around with the idea of like working on the song as well. So like we kind of had an idea that started to roll together, and I'm like, it feels right. It kind of goes back to why it's the first time I did a cover. Like she was into it, and her voice just fits so well on it. It kind of was like the perfect storm of. Also happened during COVID, like working over email and having to record a track and make a dance track over email, but kind of creatively vibing with someone, even though she's in Denmark, half like I don't know, a continent away.
Yeah. And process wise, did you kind of put a concept track demo together to try to pitch it to like the publishing and of the song, or did you try to get clearance ahead of time? I'm just curious, like. Process.
That's a label thing. No, we actually cleared it before the final like master was done, but we kind of went back and forth. And originally, it sounded way more like tropical than where the track ended up, and happy, and almost felt a little. It was like kind of like very plucky, like "Lump lump lump, kiss me," and like after going back and forth. And I think the label originally got that version cleared. Then we came back, and I'm like, okay, let's try to give this like one more creative pass, and kind of flipped it into this darker kind of housey, chill vibe where it is today. Yeah. But we got it cleared before the final was done. Like
I'm glad you went in that direction.
Yeah, I'm happy I did too. When my manager Miles and me were talking originally, he's like, maybe like try a different version of it. And I really liked the first version. But I can't remember what it sounds like anymore now that this one's done. And at first I'm like, really? Like I really like where it's at, but I'm happy you got to push me to go a bit even more out of my comfort zone, but keep working something that I thought was already finished.
Yeah, keep pushing it.
Yeah.
So listeners, we've got Frank Walker on as a guest today. He's a Canadian DJ, and we're featuring his song "Kiss Me," which has got. We were just talking about like the original from Sixpence None the Richer in the '90s, and Frank's version is got these more like deep house, darker vibes, which I love. It's a great dance record. You took a classic '90s track and made it into a dance record that you can listen to in the gym, you can chill at home with. It's something that can play out. It's definitely, you've modernized a classic record that I think so many people listen to and feel that nostalgic feeling.
Sixpence, none the walker.
Frank's pence.
So kiss Frank.
Frank's pants, none the walker.
I could just shut up the rest of the show now. I peaked.
Don't.
No.
All right.
No, so
wait. Hey, Ryan, is romance evolving?
Well, that's a topic I want to get into. And we have 2 segments, so we're going to get to that point. But we, Frank touched on it a little bit earlier about the innocence of the track, and it got me thinking of like first kisses and romance in general, and just how things have changed so much over the decades. I mean, this song reminds me of decades past when there was more innocence. You would watch movies and, they were a lot more reserved in the way they would show kind of like the courtship happening. And then maybe at the very end, it led up to like a final kiss. And then like the credits come up and stuff. And, so I was just thinking about like this song and romance in general. Is romance, I mean, obviously everybody wants romance, but is it changing now compared to in the 90s and compared to like when our parents and grandparents were growing up? Like, what do you guys think about that?
Romance in the age of social media. I definitely think it's different. Like, I don't know. It's hard to, obviously we didn't grow up in that time. So it's hard to say exactly, but I feel back then you definitely get a sense of everything being more, I don't know, genuine is the right word, but I feel like there was more of like a process to kind of like really find the person that you like. And I feel like now it's become too much people like DMing each other and like seeing each other on social media, especially during COVID. There's no romance. Like, you up? No. No, but I think
for married couples too.
You up on the couch? No. No, I definitely think that in this day and age, it feels like it's lost a bit of that kind of romance. Has lost the romance. I don't know how to say this properly, but it like older songs, it definitely feels like there's more of that courtship process, and it felt a bit more kind of fairy tale-esque. If that makes sense.
Yeah, fairy tale is good. Yeah, that's a good description. Fairy tale.
Well, I think his romance has lost its romance. Maybe his romance has lost its luster. Maybe that's like a good way to put it.
It's a way more poetic way of saying it instead of me using the same word.
I'm using my English degree on this show.
Scott goes from dad jokes to poetry.
Yo, romance is mad cool, yo.
Yo, yeah, bro.
Tweet that. No.
Yeah. So you're saying romance maybe it's lost its luster.
I think it has. I mean, I granted, I actually, just to give a frame of reference to Frank and those who don't know me that well, but I met my wife actually on a dating site. But I can tell you that, having initial conversations with people via text just feels weird, or via email, it feels different. And nowadays, prior to COVID, people don't really approach each other out and about at bars or in public as much anymore. People actually, I mean, there's some people that are down with it, but people are like, why the hell are you talking to me? I don't know you. So it's just a weird time to be alive.
No, there's definitely that kind of separation. Unless you know someone really well, I feel like we're losing that kind of connection of talking to people in public. And also back to your point about texting, I feel like there's like a lot that can be misconstrued kind of over text. Like, you don't really know exactly what someone's saying without the kind of context. If it's just written, you lose a lot of context of like someone's body language, which I feel makes it different. And I think people are also a little afraid to open up, because like if you like say like, oh, like I love you to someone over text, and they don't back, it's like, oh my God, they're going to show all their friends, which is definitely scarier.
Or you put the thumbs down. You put the thumbs down emoji on that comment.
The crying laughing emoji.
Thumbs down.
Yeah, I proposed to my wife over tweet.
And she did a thumbs down.
She retweeted it, but didn't answer.
Yeah.
She retweeted it with a laughing emoji.
And now we have a kid. There's someone. Someone's definitely proposed over Twitter before. Like, I'm just putting that out there. There's no way that hasn't happened on this.
Yeah.
And as we all know, if someone's done it, that means we should do it.
Yeah.
So is romance a perspective? this romance perspective. Because if you say it's lost its luster, so what was the original luster? And maybe, I mean, we're coming to a close on the segment 1. Maybe we can get into that more in segment 2, but that is something I want to talk about. Like, what was that original luster that might be lost?
Are you asking me or are you asking Frank?
Well, it's kind of a rhetorical question.
I thought it was rhetorical. I was thinking about it.
Yeah, it is rhetorical, and we're all like, man, what is that luster?
I mean, I felt like there was a need for me to say something because there was a 3-second gap.
Silence. No, it's a really good question. Like, it's hard to. I feel like the answer is yes, it has, but like I don't know exactly how to pinpoint it. And I'm not that old. I'm 29, but even over like me from like high school to now, I feel like there's a lot that's changed, and just the things of how people approach each other. I don't want to take everything away from segment 2 if we're going to talk about this more, though.
Well, I would think that romance actually lost its luster with the advent of the cell phone, to be honest with you, because you're always reachable. And I remember when I was growing up, for example, because I'm 40, and I would call a friend to hang out, and their frickin' sister would answer and never give the kid the message. No, but you would someone wasn't home, then they'd call you back when they went home. And when they were out and about, they weren't staring at their phones the whole time because they didn't have it.
Yeah.
And then that plays into the whole thing of like, when you're I see what you're saying, because when without being connected to the person with cell phones and social media, then that plays into your head of like, what's this what's he doing? What's she doing?
There's a bit of mystery.
Am I going to see them again?
And I think like
the mystery.
Mystery is good. You don't want to know everything about everyone. Like my girlfriend now, before we start dating, it's like, oh, like I see she's out like eating this, and it's like almost like, I don't know. Then you want to see them more, but also kind of like it obviously worked out for us. But I feel like that kind of lack of mystery and kind of having to figure out what a person likes and what they aren't into in person, and kind of explore that with someone, opposed to just being like, oh, like it's on their Instagram bio or their Twitter feed.
It's almost like we have to be more intentional now to maintain mystery. Whereas maybe in earlier days, it was just kind of built into our lack of technology and connection with each other.
Yeah. And you had to uncover the mystery. Like we've anti-romanced ourselves.
Yeah, but I feel like it's kind of interesting because and we're coming to a close on the segment. We'll get into this, but it's almost like the way I'm looking at it is it's forcing me, because I'm dating, and it's forcing me to be more conscious about how does attraction work? Like when is it working? When is it not working? Oh, mystery plays into attraction. Well, what creates mystery? What doesn't create mystery? And I almost feel like it's making us have to be more aware of the kinds of elements involved in dating. Whereas before, maybe we could be more unconscious about it, and it was just kind of happening more naturally because we didn't have cell phones, social media, and stuff.
Yeah, you can be a bit more carefree and like actually enjoy the moment opposed to overanalyzing.
I overanalyze everything.
I do too. It's like you're not alone. I think it's a lot of people now. I think that's like this day and age. Like people are expected to be so on because everyone has that like kind of public persona that's like, oh, like everything needs to be perfect. And like I think people overanalyze because that's the situation.
Yeah. And we see perfect images of, what people project online, and we all know that that's not
true.
The full story. Yeah. So we're coming to a close on segment 1. We're going to take But the good news is we're going to be back. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to be back here with special guest Frank Walker. See you then. Welcome back to Life Rhythms Radio Show. I'm your host, Ryan Skyy. I've got my special guest back with me, Frank Walker. Hey, Frank.
What's up?
Welcome back, man.
You were so energetic. I'm like, I need to be energetic too. I'm like, oh no, what do I say? That's all that came out.
It's funny is my friends tease me because it's like, I'm actually an introvert. Like if you listen to my show, you probably wouldn't realize, but I'm actually a very introverted person. So, but yeah, whenever I can turn it on when I need.
No, I'm the same way. When I perform, I'm usually like very, very chilled. And like when backstage before a show, I'm like very, very like not like Zen, but like I don't like being super, super hype. And then when you go out there, it's a different persona. You got to flip on, and like the lights come up, and you get me on a mic, and you have to be super energetic, or people don't want to see that.
Isn't that interesting?
I totally get where you're coming from. No one wants to see me up there like mopey DJ up there, like kind of like not moving at all,
Yeah. I mean, my friends tease me for the same thing, because when I'm a DJ, I'm super energetic, and then come off stage and I'm like, hey, super like, hey guys, like, shy, kind of quiet in group settings. It's like, dude, you were just like on the mic in front of all these people, like, you know, making all this noise and stuff, and now you're shy, you know? It's like, what?
My roommates always make fun of me when I have to record liners for radio, because like my radio guy will be like, hey, here's like 20 stations you got to record liners for, and it's like over and over. I'm upstairs, like, it's like, what's up, everyone? This is Frank Walker, and like they always make fun of me when I walk back downstairs into my kitchen after recording liners or something.
Like we know the real Frank.
Yeah, I mean they're like wearing COVID
we got
sweatpants
and COVID sweatpants
upstairs. My COVID sweatpants.
I also got my. You're what?
So I come back down to my kitchen wearing my COVID sweatpants. Probably hadn't like looking all disheveled. They're like, oh, we know what the real you is like. Disgust me. No?
All right, I'm done with my one-liner. We got Scott, my manager and co-host, with us as well. Hey, Scott.
Swing, swing.
Keep going.
Swing the spinning step. You wear those shoes and I'll wear that dress. Oh, kiss me.
Yes. So, listeners, we're featuring Frank's record "Kiss Me," which we talked a little bit. We talked all about it in segment 1. It's we talked about how it's a cover of the original in Sixpence None the Richer, and this new version he's modernized it and he's given it this really dope deep house kind of dancey vibes, which I love. And we were talking about "Kiss Me," the original, like it's one of the most romantic songs I've ever heard, but it's innocent. It's like a very innocent sort of romance, which I think is what makes the song so charming and delightful. It's sort of the romance you might have seen in Hollywood movies from like the 1940s and 50s, where you could, like, they wouldn't even show a man and woman in bed together. And so after like a good hour and a half of gentle comedy based on a guy being hopelessly in love with a girl who wasn't interested in him, or maybe the other way around, eventually the heroine realizes he really is the guy for her after all. And they're like under the moonlight on a porch somewhere. She tells him how she feels and pulls him in close for a brief but gentle and very restrained kiss just before the titles run and the lights come up and it's all in cinema format. So like I get that same feeling at the end of those movies as I get every time I hear Sixpence None the Richer song, "Kiss Me," the original, and now this remake by Frank. They both encapsulate this very nicest sort of romantic feelings, the innocence and freshness of a first kiss with someone special. So that's what we're talking about today, is like this romance, and we started to
really
get into a
vivid, dude.
That was very. I was going to say it's very.
That was well done.
Are you like a screenwriter in your spare time or something? Is that, or did you pull that off the internet?
I'm staring at this outline with so much pride, and maybe considering you work in like that field, like the outlining field, because that was beautiful. Much like the romance between Ernie and Bert.
Oh, that's what I strive to be, as an outliner.
You're an outliner.
Dreams.
I strive to be Bert from Ernie and Bert. So
why are you being such an Oscar grouch?
Well, thanks, guys. I mean, so we talked about this a little, we started to get into about romance and how it's evolved. And we were talking about maybe romance has lost its luster. We talked about a little bit about how technology has played a role, because now we're constantly connected to people that we're dating. And also the process of dating has changed. Frank, you had mentioned in segment 1 about even just the difference between when you were in high school to now, about how dating has changed. I mean, I remember being young and literally the pieces of paper, like writing, like, do you like me? Check yes or no. Like I literally did that. People, the little notes, and you like pass it in class, and that's so sweet and innocent. And I mean, are kids doing that now? And with the papers, like I really don't think so. Are they tweeting? They're DMing each other now, right?
I feel like kids all have phones. Like my stepbrothers, when they were super young, got phones in like 4th grade. Like I don't know. I didn't have one when I was in 4th grade. You had to hand deliver a note, like you said. Now you can just like text someone, which I feel like loses a lot of that kind of special feeling.
Yeah, but I will say that romance is not dead, and romance still plays an important role through the courtship. I just feel like we have to be more. Just speaking from personal experience, I noticed that I have to be more deliberate about trying to create the romance, or trying to set up the possibility for romance to happen. Whether it's like, if I'm planning the date, and just kind of planning like the experience of what
Mm-hmm.
of the date, because like I had said at the end of segment 1 that I almost feel as if technology is making us more conscious of, we almost have to be more conscious of how attraction and dating works because everything's so transparent now. So, right.
There's
So,
a paper trail. And there's a paper trail of everything now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the scariest.
So what do you
part.
mean by that?
Well, when I would ask someone out in the 90s or, even 2000s up until the 2010s, typically it was with my voice. Or if I were to make any plans, it's with my voice, unless they're recording me. But now every text you send, every email you send, tweet and Instagram can be screenshot.
And what about like calling them on the phone? Like, Frank, I'm curious, did you have the phones with the ports?
Yeah. I was
like in the kitchen
I don't think I was dating when I had one of those phones, but no, it's like, it definitely is scary though. You like asking someone out, I think before, like, I don't know, now looking back, and I'm older and not afraid to call someone. When you're in like high school, it's like, oh my God, I got to call this person. I think like that, it is like, it's there forever. If you say you like someone or ask them out and they don't like say yes, or they like you too, then it's kind of there forever. And like, if they're showing their friends, it kind of adds an extra like scariness to it when you're like trying to make that first move, for sure.
I'm thinking about my own experience dating, and I feel like I feel as if the romantic moments happen less often, but when they do, they're more special now to me because they're such a surprise.
Yeah. And you got to put an effort. You got to put a conscious effort in. I think that's also just life now. Like, I feel like life is so fast paced with like, now when I'm talking to people, it's like email, text, like all these Europeans are on WhatsApp, like people like DM you. There's like people commenting on Snapchat. There's so many ways of talking and you're so busy all the time. I think you really need to make that conscious effort to be not even just romantic, but even just to take that time for yourself and like slow down and put your phone down and make those moments happen. But they are special when they happen because they're less frequent.
Right. They are less frequent. What do you think about that, Scott? Like with you and your wife?
Well, for me and my
moment.
Well, it's interesting because Ryan and I, we do the majority of our work together during the week, but on Saturdays and Sundays, sometimes things come up. But Ryan knows that I typically have a 13-hour workday, Monday through Friday. I grab my phone at around 6 a.m. and I put it down around 7 p.m. That's not to say that I'm not away for moments and things like that. But if I want to work, I can work anytime I want, but then I'll be a shitty husband. I'll be a shitty father. So I need to give myself limits. And so at 7 o'clock on, unless I had like an artist on tour, my phone's away. No one can reach me even if they want to. So I could spend time with my wife. And in the morning, I used to have a problem of doing work before I had like a cup of coffee, or doing work at like 3:30 or 4 in the morning if I wake up then. And I just think that like, just like those slogans are out about like, do you really need to send that text when you're driving? Do I really need to send an email at 3:45 in the morning when I haven't had my coffee, when I'm not really up? So you need to be good to yourself and the relationships around you.
No, I'm bad at that too. Like the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is check my phone and check what emails I've come in. Like before, I should probably even still be sleeping to get my 8 hours, and your brain starts going already. And that's even, like I said, without even in the dating context. But now that as of like partway through COVID, I am dating my girlfriend. Now it's like I need to make those conscious moments where before I might be like, oh, I really need to hit this deadline on this remix, and I'd be up till 2 a.m. working on something. Now I need to be like, hey, it's time to like go hang out with my girlfriend so she doesn't dump me.
Yeah. And how long have you two been dating?
Since like beginning of November, kind of. We met during COVID, so it's been a really interesting experience.
Yeah, you said that.
Yeah, we.
I want to hear about that. About meeting someone during COVID, that because A, first of all, for Ryan's sake, because he is single, and B, just for the world, because I'm living vicariously through you guys.
So like, it was a really interesting, it's probably the first time I've ever been like set up with someone. My sister's a competitive horseback rider. She like jumps for Team Canada, like on like the, like going, like was going to go to the Olympics before they got canceled this year. And her mom, my girlfriend Natalie, her mom rides at my sister Nikki's barn. Like they're kind of talking. It's like, oh, like, and we were both in LA at the time. It's like my brother Frank's in LA. She's like, oh, my daughter's out in LA, like acting right now too. And they're trying to set us up out there, but it didn't end up, like we couldn't meet when we were out there, and we ended up meeting back here during COVID, but we're like both from the same hometown. We're both in LA at the same time. We have a ton of mutual friends. It was like a really weird, like, and we're like, we don't know how we haven't met each other before. We're looking back, we've been at so many parties together, but it's been an interesting experience because like for 80% of our relationship, nothing's been open. So we've had to like find things to do together, which has helped us grow really close. But then it's also, how do you make those moments special? Like for her, like her favorite restaurant, I don't know why, is Cheesecake Factory. Like she loves the chicken piccata from Cheesecake Factory. It's like for Valentine's Day, like I like cooking.
No, it's
like
one of the better chain restaurants.
I've actually never been. I've never been to Cheesecake.
It's one of the better chain restaurants. Don't hate on it.
Oh, you haven't been yet because of COVID?
No, but I had to learn how to make the chicken piccata from scratch over Google, and then surprised her on Valentine's Day. So it's like little things like that, like that COVID dating experience.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but yeah, it definitely is like a interesting time to be dating someone. We probably, because it was like we both have like our lives have completely slowed down. Like we don't need to be gone. Like I don't need to be gone touring on weekends, and she can come hang around with me all day during the day. So I feel like we kind of like accelerated a relationship. You spend so much FaceTime with someone. And I guess at that point,
and do you feel like you're building?
Sorry,
I was going to ask. Do you feel as if you're building a foundation now that when things do open up, you'll have that foundation for when you do start traveling and things get busy again?
No, definitely. We actually were talking about this the other night because we put all this FaceTime in and gone through and gotten like such a good bond going. Now that when I need to go away for weekends, or because I mentioned earlier she's an actress, like if she's gone on set somewhere for a week, it's like I think we're in a good spot to kind of go through that together. But I think if it wasn't COVID, I definitely wouldn't have, like, I'm gone every weekend. It's hard. I think it's stressful to start a relationship in that kind of context. So it's kind of like a little blessing in disguise. But back to our other point, slowing down. Like you don't need to be as busy dating in the 2020s.
Yeah, things slowed down. We didn't have a choice. Listeners, we've got Frank Walker on as our guest, and we're talking about a single "Kiss Me," and just kind of like romance in general, and what our experiences have been throughout our lives, how it's changing, and dating, and all those sorts of things. It's so interesting because I'm thinking about this. You released this song, I think, at the perfect time, because when we talked earlier in this episode, and we were talking about the lyrics, and we've mentioned several times about how innocent the Sixpence None the Richer song is. It's almost like as the world was slowing down, Frank, you released a classic record to kind of remind people of maybe of a past time that maybe we all want to get back to. I feel like it's a really great time. It was good timing for you and this particular record because of how things are slowing down. And right now dating is changing again. Like it changed with the advent of the dating apps, but then COVID changed things. I see people who are more interested. I see broadly people are more interested in finding somebody and dating and connecting and less in like the hookup culture. And I know that has to do with COVID. And I'm really curious to see how much of it stays like that when things open back up, or is it going to go back to how things were before? Like what do you think? Do you think?
Yeah,
like do you think people are learning a new way of life?
Clubs I think it's just clubs and bars are for the most part closed, and you need to put in that FaceTime. It's not like you're out with loud music going and you have drinks in your system, or like you're kind of like trying to yell at each other for music. I think you have that time to make those personal connections with people and actually sit down and talk and have real conversations. And instead of going out to a bar with hundreds of people, you got to keep it a small group of friends, like 2 or 3 of you are sitting down having real conversations and really connecting with people again. And I think it's lost by it. I mean, like the whole social experience has lost some of that superficial level where you actually need to go and engage with people and really, I don't know, it's a nice experience.
Yeah. Scott, what do you think is going to happen when things open back up?
Some people are going to stay home paranoid. Some people are going to go out and about like nothing happened. And then there's going to be the majority of people who are wearing masks out and about, but, are less fearful of death.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
That was my analysis of the 3 tiers.
I have 2 hypotheses, and I think one of 2 things are going to happen. I think either, on one hand, people are learning a new way of life, with the bars and the clubs being closed, as you said, Frank. So we're learning a new way of like wanting to connect with each other, activities and things that we can do that we're connecting deeper. On the other hand, I feel like the other thing that could happen is it could be like the same thing it could be a repeat of like the Roaring 20s. You know, it's like when there was prohibition, everything went underground. Alcohol was illegal, everything went underground. And then when alcohol was legalized again, you had an explosion of party culture, right? Yeah. And so I'm wondering if when things open back up, is it people learned a new way and now we're connecting more? Or is there going to be like this explosion of people like, oh my God, I get to go to Coachella again. And it's because, you know, like the way the brain works is the brain is always working to seek equilibrium. And so if it experiences one extreme, when it gets the opportunity, it typically will go all the way over and experience the other extreme. So we're so repressed, and I'm wondering when things open up, are people going to go all the way on the other end to kind of make up for the time lost?
I know personally, I'm like really itching to have experiences again and go out and go to a restaurant or go see a concert or go, I don't know, walk around an art gallery. It's never something I would have wanted to do before, but now because I can't do anything, I'm itching to do these things. I can't speak for everyone else, but I feel like I've like it's helped me like kind of grow beyond the phase of just wanting to go to a bar every weekend and try to just for the sake of going out. I feel like I'm going to appreciate it more now when I go out because we've been denied that. Like, so I don't think people are going to stop doing things, but I think it's like they're going to be more conscious of what they're doing when they're allowed to do it again. Probably, I don't know.
And you think they'll be more appreciative because of having not been able to do it?
Yeah, some people. I think there's definitely going to be people that are so like just want to go out every weekend and party. But I think that being denied doing fun things, everyone wants it more and like are hopefully going to appreciate it more.
Yeah, I definitely think people, I agree with you. I think people will appreciate it more.
I think it's going to be like a cheat meal. Like, I feel like people who diet, that one thing going out is going to feel like a cheat meal. So like the very first mosh pit at a metal festival is going to be the most intense with the most dead people ever.
Oh no. I laughed right before you said dead people. I hope it's not like, no, I definitely,
I'm clearly kidding.
I think there's definitely going to be a backlash of people really wanting to go out and do stuff. But I think the way stuff's going to be tiered opening back up, I don't know if we're going to have the chance to. I feel like it's going to be like limited capacity stuff easing back in. So like, I think if tomorrow is like everything's back 100% open, COVID's not a thing anymore, people will probably be nuts and go out. But I think it's going to I think it's going to get like gradually ease back into it, if that makes sense.
That's a really good point. That's a good point because when I think about the analogy with the Roaring 20s and prohibition, it was just alcohol's illegal. Now alcohol's legal.
Open the floodgates.
This is different. Yeah, this is different because you're right. Things are going to open up in tiers. And even when things are fully open in one country, they're not going to be fully open in another country. And there's always going to be some like fluctuations happening. Mm-hmm. Are we even going to know when things are fully open? You know, like I see what you're saying about how easing into it might prevent that kind of crazy explosion of everyone like freaking out, excited about going to the festival. Yeah.
So, okay, I mean, we're coming to foot traffic. There'll be more maskless foot traffic.
Maskless foot traffic, yeah. So, okay, we've got a few minutes left with this episode, and I just want to talk about like what can we do to bring romance back? So, I love the song "Kiss Me." I love everything we've talked about today. I love how this song is reminding us, kind of like maybe of an innocent time that. From our childhood, like what are things we can be more conscious about it? You know, like what do you guys think about dating once COVID is over? What can people do to be more, how can we bring back this? And do we want to bring back this kind of innocent romance? Like, yes. Do we want to bring it back? Yeah. Okay.
I think it's important. I don't have the answer as to how to do it off the top of my head, but I think it definitely, I feel like post COVID, I definitely feel like kind of ties in that easing back. I think people are going to be going on more like one-on-one experiences because you need to have smaller circles of people. And I think that kind of ties into having stuff be more special and not just being out with a group of 25 friends and it kind of being crazy, you know? So I don't know. I think that kind of nostalgic old school romance is definitely something that is missing in the world right now that I think is definitely a good thing to come back though.
Okay. And how can we be romantic with DMing and social media? Like, I'm just thinking about romance in general. Like, is romance only happening in person now?
I could tell you what not to do.
Yeah, let's hear that.
I like it.
Yo, nude pics.
Frank's got a big smile. He's ready.
Nude pics are not a good way to introduce yourself to someone
in an innocent, romantic way.
Yes. Or if you're not being romantic about it, I have no idea what your motive is.
And what is it? What is a romantic moment? It's like
for courtship.
In the context of nude photos.
Yeah, there's none for that. But in the context,
that's something we haven't really talked about. Like in today's day and age, what represents a romantic moment?
You know what it would be for me? It would be if I was talking to someone, if I was single, because I haven't been single for quite a while,
right.
But just talking briefly over, some kind of correspondence, whether it's an app or text, and then taking it to the phone. Just say, hey, do you want to talk on the phone, or do you want to FaceTime, or you want to do something so that there's more human interaction? Because I feel that the humanity would bring about more potential for romance.
Okay.
I agree. I think too, it's like you don't want to drag stuff on over text too long. I think if you like someone, like put it out there. And then like hopefully if they like you too, then you meet in person. I think people are a little like over text, we go back to being afraid to make that first move. I think people kind of are too like wishy-washy around and don't want to make that first move. And maybe there's missed opportunities because of that. Because we're in that day and age where someone can screenshot it and show it to their friends. So I think it's important to, I don't know, shoot your shot.
Be direct. Yeah, I would say directness is romantic. It is. It's bold and it's romantic. It's like, wow, this person is just telling me exactly how they feel about me. That is romantic. I like that because most people are more wishy-washy.
Not send a text like, hey, like, I kind of maybe like you if you like me too, but if you don't, then I don't like you. And that's also cool. No, be direct. I think being direct is good.
I do too. I think it's really important. So, okay, I agree. Directness can be more romantic. And for me, a romantic moment is when you are connecting with somebody. It's like I feel the spark, you feel the spark, but it's because you find something in common with the other person. Like attracts like. You had talked about your girlfriend and how much you have in common. Mm-hmm. And I feel like those serendipitous moments of connecting with somebody who shares something that like you, it's almost like you see a part of yourself in them and they see part of themselves in you. And it creates like a moment of like, wow. Yeah. And it's like a memory for me.
And then it's all acting on that moment and being bold in that situation too. And then like really making that step to go on a date and doing something special and not just being like, oh, hey, let's like keep texting and then go out with a big group of friends like on either side. I think it's about making that step and taking that leap of faith and being like, hey, I actually like you. Let's go do something one-on-one. I don't know. If you get rejected, that sucks, but at least you know.
Right. At least you know. That is the perfect way to end this segment because unfortunately we are done. We came to the end, but I love it. This was such a fun episode. We had Frank Walker on today as our guest featuring his single Kiss Me, which has a vocalist Teresa Rex. I want to give her a shout out. And Frank, can you give your socials so people can get in touch with you online and check out your music?
So best way is to whenever I release new stuff, it's always usually on my Instagram, at Frank Walker. Then that's the main one. I put everything on, but it's on Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, everywhere you can find music. Tidal, it's up there. I don't know who uses it, but it's up on Tidal. All those things. Any platform, it's there. Frank Walker. There's also a Frank Walker that made music in the 1920s. So if it's just acoustic guitar stuff, that's not me. The guy's old, no longer making music.
Yeah, it got to be the dance music. Make sure you guys get the
Kiss Me.
Get the good.
Go to Google, Kiss Me, Frank Walker, hit play.
Yeah.
Be there.
Yeah, totally worth it. Awesome. Thank you for coming on the show. It's been such a pleasure, man.
Thank you for having me. It's good. I mentioned before, like during COVID, you don't get to meet many new people, especially not in a face-to-face way over the internet like this. So thank you. Right. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We miss you already.
I don't even remember what you look like.
I'll show you in a second.
Not you, Ryan. I can see you.
I know.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
So throughout this whole episode, Frank and I have been seeing each other through video, and Scott just revealed himself in video. So do you see him on Zencastr?
No, I need to move over. I'm on Zoom still. Oh, there you are.
Not my fault you're not looking.
I see you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to finally see you at the end of the episode.
Well, we did it before too, but it doesn't matter. Thank you, Frank Walker.
All right, you guys, we got to go. Time is up, but thanks for, we loved having you on. Guys, check out Frank Walker online. This was another episode of Life Rhythms. We will see you next time.